Hello, welcome back. My name is Dr. Christopher Gennari, and this is Great Big History Podcast. And in this episode, we do Thailand from 1945 to 1991. Thailand is technically an ally of Japan in World War II, and that's a bad choice. It's an understandable choice, given the last 150 years of Thai history we've talked about. Thailand is one of the few countries that survived as an independent country despite the Europeans conquering most of East Asia. It's basically Thailand and Japan. To a lesser extent, China, but, we put an asterisk there because of all the unequal treaties, all the open door, all the Boxer Rebellion. It's China's independent, as in it's not absorbed into an empire, a European empire, but its independence is a source of humiliation for China and the Chinese. Let's be honest. There is an argument to be made that China is not independent, especially after 1895. That it's become so weak, it's a dependency, if not, and it's not a colony, and it's not conquered and absorbed, but it's also not an independent China. But that being said, Thailand survives as an independent country being surrounded. It's got the British to the south, the British to the west in Burma, and the French to the east in Laos, Cambodia, and Vietnam. So how did it survive? Well, we talked about this. It survived by basically being an ally to everybody, by being willing to trade with everybody, by saying, hey, we don't want to conquer stuff. Well, yes, we give up the land. Yes. France, you get the Laotian highlands that we've owned for 150 years. Oh, you get Cambodia, which we've owned for another 200 years. Oh, yeah, great. Woo! Oh, we're going to lose parts of the Malay Peninsula that we just recently conquered. Oh, good. Britain, you are going to create Singapore. Good for you. So when the Japanese arrived with a giant army and a large navy in order to conquer Indonesia, which has the rubber plantations, which has the oil for World War II, that they desperately need, the entire reason to attack the United States in Hawaii and in the Philippines was to get to Indonesia. You can imagine that's going to be a large army, because now once you take it, you got to hold it. Well, that's right to your south. They're going to conquer Vietnam and Cambodia to make sure that Thais can't mess with them. And they conquer Singapore to kick the British out. So you're now surrounded by the Japanese. And so you can understand why the Thais are like, whoa, we're cool, Japan, we're cool. Of course, that creates some resentment in the United States and Britain, who will then win the war. It's like, oh, yeah, when the chips were down, you weren't exactly helping us. And so what happens in the next 20 years is the USA supports military coups in Thailand, especially to support the U.S. Army in Vietnam, to support the Vietnam War, to gain bases, and to be anti-USSR. So the Cold War affects Thai politics, Thai democracy. It effectively ends any concept of Thai democracy for a while, because the U.S. doesn't want democracy in Thailand. It needs an ally. And it needs a real ally, not a wishy-washy one, the way Thai said it was an ally of everybody. And by being an ally of everybody meant it was an ally of nobody. Now the U.S. is like, you're going to be in our camp. If you are not with us, you are against us. And so using a lot of payments, a lot of hush money, a lot of CIA, they get the military, the Thai military, to overthrow their own government in order for the United States to have an ally to fight the Vietnam War, to give it especially air bases, and to help it be anti-USSR, anti-Soviet Union. this connection through the Cold War is going to tie Thailand to Japan and Europe economically, which is going to lead to fast growth, but huge inequality. So it makes sense, right? The Cold War, the Vietnam War, the United States needs allies nearby that can make stuff for them, whether it's food or be a hub for transport. And that's going to be Japan, South Korea, and right next door, Thailand. And so there's these ties that are going to be made between Japan and Thailand. And by being an ally in the United States, there's also going to be this tie to Europe economically. And so Thailand grows quickly, 10% a year. But it creates huge inequality. So you get massive new buildings. And also people, farmers who are in destitution. You get modern bankers. People who are tied to the European tourism trade. Bangkok becomes a massive tourist capital, especially for Europeans. I was blown away. Completely blown away. I am a Scandinavian scholar, and I was blown away by how many Swedes vacation in Thailand and Southeast Asia for the Christmas holidays. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, it is so far away. It's 10,000 plus miles away. But they do. And that is this kind of, Bangkok becomes a tourist capital, not really for Americans. Like, Americans know it, but they're much more likely to go to Tokyo, Australia, New Zealand. But Europeans are more likely to go to Bangkok, Phuket, and the beaches, the resorts. It's a very European tourism of East Asia. And what Thailand provided was cheap labor for Japanese and European made goods. So Japanese factories that didn't want to pay Japanese labor costs could move to Thailand. Europeans do the same thing. And so Thailand is interesting because it plays on these connections that, despite the Cold War making the United States the largest country in East Asia, you know, you've got the United States, you've got the Soviet Union, who's helping Vietnam, you've got communist China as well. The ties continue that connection that goes back 150 years to Europe. That the Cold War did not, while it develops Thailand, that it changes its politics, that it creates this dictatorship or these dictatorships for a while, it economically didn't change. It continued to be tied to Japanese industrialization and to European trade and tourism. So the Cold War affects Thai politics, tied to the United States, right? Pro-Vietnam War, pro-bases, anti-USSR. But economically, Thailand doesn't really fundamentally change. It stays connected to Japanese industrialization and European modernity, tourism, service economy, trade, even the drug trade. Much of the European heroin trade is going to come out of Southeast Asia, Thailand, to Europe. So you see these old connections being maintained. After 1973, with the end of the Vietnam War, you get more democracy, but not much stability. Thailand continues to be this place of huge inequality. The king of Thailand continues to be the most important moral leader in the country, the person who could hold this whole society together. And yet, It's politically, it's an ally of the United States, more democracy, post-Vietnam War. But you don't get much stability. The military still maintains a role in politics from time to time. And the idea is to continue to make this money for the elites. Okay, we'll see something similar when we talk about Indonesia and the Philippines. Whereas Singapore is going to be very different in how it economically will run itself. So, okay, well, thank you very much. So that's Thailand. You can see how the Cold War and the previous wars of imperialism with the West and Japan had a huge impact on its economics and its politics in the 20th century, the latter half of the 20th century. And so we'll talk about Indonesia and the Philippines next. Okay, thank you. Take care. Be safe.